Hello everybody and welcome back to Sweet and Sour Soccer, and of course the Premier League is back. Week 1 of our Premier League predictions as well, and this year we're going to do something a little bit different. Me and James are going to go head to head each week. 3 points for a correct score, 1 point for a correct result. James, how confident are you with beating me, mate?
Well, if anyone watched was it last season? I think it was the season before. We did the Premier League prediction league. There was 6 streamers, including you. I was top from the first week. I smashed it. Every week I was top. So
there we go. So some confidence. I'm going to give you a challenge. I'm confident of it. But guys, we will be keeping you up to date with those scores each week as well. So something for you guys to come back to each week. But let's kick off with week 1, because obviously we start on Friday night. Burnley, who take on Man City. How do you see this one going, mate?
It's a Man City win, isn't it? It's the Vincent Kompany effect. It's Turf Moor. Do you remember when Burnley first came up in like 2009? I think they played United at home in one of the first games of the season, and they beat them 1-0. This was prime Fergie. I think the team won the Champions League that season before, something like that. Vincent Kompany, Turf Moor, City go in there. I still think City get the results, but I think it'll be close. I'm going to say 2-0. It's going to be a boisterous atmosphere back in the league. 2-0 Man City.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit annoying watching it on telly, because it's all going to be about the Vincent Kompany taking on, obviously, his old club thing, which I'd rather just know a little bit more about the squads and everything else. But I've gone similar. I think City do get it done. I've gone a little bit more convincing. I've actually gone for a 3-0 City win. I think despite the not the Carabao Cup, the Community Shield or whatever it's called now, not meaning much to them, I think they'll be wanting to make a bit of a statement after that. Let's move on to Arsenal, who obviously did win the Community Shield, and they start off taking on Nottingham Forest. Now, I think this would have been an interesting one if it was at Forest, because we do know how good Forest's home form is. It's a tough place to go, and obviously Arsenal did struggle there last season as well, it has to be said. But at the Emirates, we know Arsenal were dominant last year. We also know Forest really need to improve on their away form. It's interesting that Forest look to be getting a deal for Matt Turner, who obviously plays for Arsenal. And we know that, they're really desperate for a keeper. If I was Arsenal, I'd be holding that up until after the game. I'd say, look, you can have him, but you're not having him before the game's done. But I think it might be done. Obviously, for this one, I do think Arsenal start the season well, and I am going to actually go for 3-1. I'm going to give Forest a goal, but I think Arsenal will probably have too much, especially with their attacking options now.
I'm going to say 3-0 Arsenal. It can go one of two ways. After riding high last season and missing out, will they capitulate this season, get off to a bad start, or will they continue as they started with the Charity Shield win? 3-0 Arsenal. I think Forest are going to struggle this year. Moving on to Sheffield United versus Palace. Sheffield United back in the league, of course, this time not under Chris Wilder. A lot of players have got to step up for Palace this season. They haven't done amazing business. Losing Zaha, you got to think Eze is going to have to fill those shoes along with a few other players. I think Sheffield United could rival Derby's record. I'm going to predict a Palace win. I don't think they'll blow them out the water because they are away. I'm going to go 1-0 Palace.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a hard one, obviously, for Palace going up to there. I mean, I'd argue Palace, look, I worry for Palace as well. We've seen Roy Hodgson staying on. I still don't think that was a great decision. You know, they had a few games towards the end of the season, but overall, towards the end of the season, they also didn't play well in those last few games. But Sheffield United, look, they've sold one of the best players. By the time you watch this, they might have sold the second best player. I feel sorry for the Sheffield United fans, really, because the board are really not giving them much hope. And unfortunately, I don't give them too much hope in this game. I think it will be competitive, but I am going to go for a 2-1 Palace win. Let's move on to speaking about Bournemouth, who take on West Ham. And I think Bournemouth are one of those teams where a lot of people are underrating them this season, maybe because they're taking a risk on a new manager. And also the fact that, you know, obviously it's Bournemouth. It's probably easy for people to just go, yeah, they're going to go down. because naturally they won't have too many like fans arguing back in them. No offense if you do support Bournemouth, it's just a fact. But West Ham, you know, they look to be getting some business done now. We're led to believe that a deal for Harry Maguire is set to be agreed. We're also led to believe that they may also be getting James Ward-Prowse. And hopefully, if you're a West Ham fan watching it, you might think, well, if we get Ward-Prowse, hopefully that means that we're not going to go in for a second bid for McTominay, because, Christ, to get that bid you got rejected, I thought was way too much. So I'm hoping for your guys' sake you don't go in for another bid for him. But obviously things are looking a bit better after the loss of Declan Rice. But I don't think those signings will actually make too much of an impact come that's the game on the weekend, just because of obviously they won't have much time to come in and then make an immediate impact. For that reason, I've actually gone for a bit of a shock result. I've gone Bournemouth 1, West Ham 0.
Oh, get Bournemouth out the league. I'm sick of them, man. When you're only allowed to accommodate 70 away fans in your ground, get rid of them. They're postponing Luton's start to the season because they haven't fixed what they've got to fix. Tell Bournemouth, if you can't accommodate more than 100, get them out the league. I'm sick of it. Hopefully, West Ham, you do the business. Ward-Prowse, Maguire. If you're watching this, there are rumours, I'm sure you've seen them by now, that Man City are sniffing around Lucas Paqueta. That will be interesting for City. I'm going West Ham 2-0. West Ham, please do not give the Cherries a good start to the season. Get them out. Just get them out. Moving on to Brighton and Luton, of course, two other teams that probably shouldn't be in the Premier League. However, you can't really have a go Brighton. They've smashed it the last 2 or 3 seasons. I think they're going to do it. Do I back them for another European push? No. However, I think they'll get their business done this weekend. I'm going to go 2-0.
Your opinion always makes me laugh on Brighton, because I think they're a much bigger club and you give them appreciation for. Can I just remind you, they actually get a bigger attendance than the club that we support on a weekly basis that is sat in the Premier League as well. But of course, that doesn't really matter. They are at the Amex. And Brighton, I think, I'm really excited for Brighton and what they've done over this summer. The signing of João Pedro, I think, is an absolutely fantastic signing as well. I think Luton, they're building a super squad for the Championship. The sad thing is that going to be able to compete in the Premier League? We don't obviously know. It's smart by their owners, but when it comes to this game, I'm going to go 2-0 to Brighton. Let's move on to Everton, who take on Fulham, and obviously 2 teams who... It's going to be an interesting season for both, and I think it's hard to place both, mainly because I still don't think both of their business is over, maybe on both the kind of incomings and outgoings. And also, there's been a lot of speculation surrounding both clubs. Obviously, Everton have got their FFP troubles, but are still seeming to be able to spend. Fulham, they've had Mitrovic apparently going to Saudi, didn't happen. They've also had Marco Silva apparently going to Saudi. Well, that didn't happen either. They'll obviously be hoping for a bit of a continuity now, and obviously also probably not lose one of their star assets in Palhinha. I do think it's going to be a very competitive game. It's not easy, though, to go to Goodison Park. I do think if it was at Fulham, I'd be giving the result to Fulham, but I'm actually going to call it a 1-1 draw because of it being at Goodison Park.
Sadly, that's exactly what I've got. So if we do get the correct result, I'm not going to get
any points
on it. So it makes no difference. I'm going to go 1-1 as well. Next up is 2 teams that performed unbelievably last season. I'm happy for Newcastle. Not so happy for Villa, obviously being a Wolves fan, but you've got to say they've done it right. They've got rid of the Gerrard and the Dean Smith era, and now they're moving in the right direction. I think this will be a good game. I expect goals. I'm going to say 2-2.
Christ. We've agreed on another result, and that's a weird one because 2-2 you wouldn't usually agree on. I just don't want to replicate what you've just said. Goals, there will be some, and I expect it to be a 2-0 draw. Let's move on. Speaking about Brentford,
I've just got to say quickly. You've seen my scores so far, and now you're just copying me, so you don't fall behind.
Well, I've actually got Villa 4, Newcastle 2. Actually, right? Yeah.
You know I'm gonna smash these results. Anyway, move on. Who is it? Brentford Spurs.
Brentford taking on Spurs, and the question is obviously always going to be: is Spurs going to start off the season doing Spursy things? Obviously, it's kind of set up for them to do so, going to Brentford. Again, another team that had good home form last season. At the moment, though, Spurs, it does look like Harry Kane may be staying. Rumours Bayern might be going back in for another bid. I feel like it's not done. It's just they've got to deal with Daniel Levy. But of course, Kane does start the season, we think anyway, with Tottenham, and they've obviously got the new addition of Maddison. Brentford have continued to spend themselves, and I think still look maybe a team that's going to be somewhat stable, hopefully, in the Premier League. But the question is always going to be around Ivan Toney and how much they're going to struggle without him, I should say. I'd throw the argument back that they did manage to score without him in the last few games of the season. But for this one, I really do, and I've said it before, I like Postecoglou. I really do. I feel sorry that this is what his big shot at the Premier League is with Spurs, a Spurs team that needs a lot of work. And I am going to marginally give it to Spurs for that reason. 1-0.
You know I don't like Spurs. I just find them a weird club. But the way that you phrase that, I feel bad for Postecoglou that his first Premier League job is a team that got to the Champions League final.
They're not there now, though. They're a long way up.
You've made Spurs seem like Everton or Luton. Like, well done, Postecoglou. You're at Spurs, but at least you're here. And you didn't even know how you phrase. That is a savage.
That's how I meant it as well.
I have gone 2-1 Spurs, even though Kane notoriously doesn't do well in August. I think they'll get the job done. 2-1 Spurs. Now we come on to probably the biggest game of the first week back, and that is Chelsea versus Liverpool. Two teams that you just don't know what you're going to get this season. Wouldn't surprise me if Chelsea finish in the top 4.
Yeah.
Wouldn't surprise me if Liverpool win the league with their attacking options. I know that's a bit of a stretch, but you just don't know what's going to happen with these two teams. I'm going to give the edge to Liverpool with obviously a few years ago it changed with the 5 substitutions. We know that games now are going to be around about the 100-minute mark on average. When Jota, Nunes, Gakpo, Diaz, Salah,
they've got options up front.
Oh God, they've got goals. I think it's going to 2-1 Liverpool. I think they'll just edge it 2-1 to the visitors.
I've gone for a just edged resort myself. I'm actually calling this one the battle of need midfielders because I feel like both these clubs have really good options in both defence and attack, but I feel both of them need something in their midfield. But I've actually gone the other way round. I've actually gone Chelsea to get the home win. I like the look of Nicholas Jackson. I really do. 2-1 to Chelsea. And let's finish off with United, who take on, well, our club Wolves. I mean, we could say a lot about this, but we're going to keep it to a minute like we do with the rest of the fixtures. I mean, wow. I mean, disaster strikes at Wolves. I still maintain my optimism that we'll be safe because we look like a good squad. But you know, I'm not expecting anything but a United win for this. I think, you know, for me, I'm going to actually say United 2, Wolves 0. I think we'll put on some kind of fight. I think the players that have been told by our former manager, Lopetegui, will be wanting to prove that, you know what, we were actually good enough. But I don't think that is going to be enough, especially at Old Trafford. I think United get the business done.
I actually said 2-0 as well. However, I want to throw a caveat out here.
Okay.
I said to you before we started recording this, something happened to me about a week ago. And on my life, this is what happened. I had a very, very vivid dream. And I rarely have dreams like this.
Here we go.
We went there and won 3-0. And it was so vivid. Max Kilman scored in that game. He scored a great volley.
Are you going to put a fiver on it?
No. However, I'm gonna say 2-0 United. But as a caveat, if we go there, win 3-0 and Max Kilman scores, you've got to give me the points. But my official prediction's 2-0 United.
I mean, I'll give it you. And also, if that does happen, guys, we will actually be turning into a fortune-telling channel next week. James will be live to tell you guys your fortunes.
3-0 Wolves, Max Kilman banger. Clip it. If that happens, oh my God, I'll be giving out sports bets every week and charging. Right.
Well, an eventful end to predictions, guys. But as always, if you have enjoyed them, do hit that like button. To subscribe to the channel and come back next week to see me, who will have a 10-point lead over James by this point. Take care. Goodbye.